So today we're going to be looking at the AGM Rattler TS25-384. I am new to thermal optics. I don't really know what I'm doing or what's going on, but I just wanted to share some initial first impressions. Now, like night vision, when you get into the world of thermal scopes, it's just expensive. It gets really, really expensive very quickly. However, from what I understand, the technology behind thermal vision and thermal scopes has improved significantly in the past couple of years or so, such that it's made it more, not totally, but more accessible to the average person. So this is kind of the base model. It has pretty much just bare bone features, but I found that it's really more than enough for me personally, and it's also very intuitive to use in terms of like the button and layout. This scope retails for about $2,000, and so that's something to consider. And this is considered, like the Payless shoe version. This is like the, what is that? The Skechers of like thermal scopes, like very budget oriented, but it still works just fine. The resolution and the picture quality I'm going to post in a bit is not the greatest thing in the world, but it's perfectly adequate. I feel very confident if I were to put this on a rifle, anything within 100 yards, I feel pretty confident. You can plug in a USB thing and use like an external battery source, which you're going to want to use, from my understanding, with the two CR123A batteries. You're looking at about an hour or so of usage, which is not very long, especially if you're going to try to go hunting with this thing. So, okay, so this is the top of the unit, and there's a few buttons. It has the camera record button, it has the power button, it has the menu button, and this has the zoom function. This is the zoom button. I forgot what this was. On this unit, you can change a variety of different reticles. And like most, things, they give you a bunch of reticles that you're never going to use. I've only found one or two that like is what I really want. You can adjust the objective lens, which is nice. And then the bottom here, this is where you're gonna mount it on a tripod, mount it on a rifle, or you could just, this unit is small enough, I can kind of just hand hold it. It's kind of just like a PBS 14 in that way. So yeah, let me just turn this on real quick. The thing about thermal optics is that they're digital. So not only is there like a lag, it takes a little bit of time for this thing to kind of power up. In addition to that, there's moments where it looks like the frame is like frozen, or it drops the frame. Like that's how slow the refresh rate is on this thing at sometimes. Oh yeah, that's what this button is for. It refreshes the image, which you're gonna need to do every now and then. And so you can change it to like white hot, black hot. You can change it to a different like color schemes, none of which are useful except for just a regular white hot. What's really cool about this, it has an internal camera, so you can take pictures and you can record videos. It does not record sound, unfortunately. I think this unit is pretty cool. I think thermal optics and thermal scopes are very cool and interesting. You would think that with night vision, you can pretty much see anything in the dark. But when you're actually trying to identify, folks or animals, it's actually quite hard to do that, especially at distance when it comes to night vision. Night vision has a lot of pros, but honestly, it's very mission specific, I would say. And having something like a thermal scope in addition to having night vision is like really awesome. I would say you know, in terms of image quality, like I said, anything within 100 yards, I feel pretty confident. Now, when you start to zoom, you'll notice the resolution deteriorates pretty rapidly. And so that's something that you have to keep in mind. There's also a feature in this called picture-in-picture, where there's kind of like a zoomed in thing the reticle is pointing at, which is pretty useful. When it comes to thermoscopes, here are some cons. I didn't know this, but for whatever reason, when there's glass, and that's like a thermal barrier, kind of like a photonic barrier for night vision. But when there's glass or like windows, especially, you cannot see through them. And that's something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that when you're using thermal scopes, you become a little bit more mindful of heat and sources of heat. So for example, you'll notice in some of the videos, as I creep at people, as I very creepily do surveillance on strangers, you'll notice that the street is warm, and that's the asphalt that's kind of been taking in heat from the sun all day. And so the road and the pavement and the asphalt, things like that, are going to be kind of lit up even a couple hours after the sun has set. And other heat sources such as lights or lanterns, things like that, definitely stand out. And it's interesting because, like, you'll see in some of the videos, like, I can kind of see like cars, but not really. But in real life, you can totally make out the cars because of the light. That's the interesting thing about thermoscopes, is they don't pick up light. They only pick up heat. I would say that this is a very good introduction to thermal optics. Obviously, like anything, if you want better resolution, if you want better performance, you're going to pay for something, you know, that's going to be exorbitantly more expensive, like the Trijicon Reap, which retails for like $8,000. And I would say, you know, if you can afford a Trijicon Reap, then by all means go for it. But if you're an average Joe and you kind of want to dip your toes into thermal optics, I would highly recommend at least checking one of these out and thinking about it. It's a cool little device. And yeah, if you got any questions, just drop a comment down below. Thanks.